Today we're going to be talking about a game where a young man accompanied with a fairy dons a sword and shield to travel the land in order to save it from an evil man. That's right, today we are talking about Guardians Crusade. What else would I be talking about? Greetings, gamers, and welcome back to Level Complete, the show where we see if an individual level is just as good or just as bad as the games they come from. Now, a lot of you probably never heard of Guardians Crusade. It suffered what I like to call the Earthbound effect, where, just like Earthbound, it didn't sell as well when it first came out, at least in North America. But it eventually got a cult following over the years, though not as big as Earthbound's. Today, I want to look into the level known as God's Tower, yet because this level is a huge turning point in the story, I will give a summary of said story just so we are on the same page. Bear with me on this, as the story is a little bit of a long explanation, mainly because this game has 3 stories that play out simultaneously. But it's necessary to know so that my review makes a little more sense. First, let me introduce Darkbeak and Ibki. Darkbeak is a kind-hearted mercenary who travels the world helping out those in need. Before the events of the game, he worked for a man named Carmine. Remember this guy? He will appear a lot. But Darkbeak saw how evil Carmine was and turned against him. For his betrayal, Carmine turned Darkbeak's sister, Ibki, into a Dragonite. That knows Tail Whip and Hyper Beam. I don't see a downside to this. Now, Darkbeak and Ibki travel together doing mercenary work in hopes of finding Carmine and killing him to return Ibki to her original form. And to save a bunch of parents, since Carmine is the leader of a cult and those who join the cult never come back, so Darkbeak and Ibki have been taking care of the now orphaned children and probably help old ladies across the street. You know, these are some nice people. Heroes, even. It's too bad you don't play as them. Next, let me introduce Calcanor and Rommel. Calcanor is the greatest knight of the Kingdom of Triscan, and Rommel is its princess? The game doesn't really explain who she is, and I've lost the instruction manual years ago. Anyway, the kingdom was visited by a mysterious wizard known as Gwynladin, who told the king of an evil man named Carmine. Oh, there he is again! Who intends to reawaken an evil god known as Zizan. Shizan? Xizan? Meh, probably not the first name I've butchered today. Gwynladin told the king that Carmine could be stopped if they traveled the world and collected the 4 Holy Stones of Legend, which were used in ancient times to seal Zizan away. So Calcanor and Rommel joined forces with Gwynladin and began hunting down the 4 holy beasts, each one representing an element, to gather these Holy Stones. And allow me to take a page from famous YouTuber Pro Jared. G, an epic RPG where you gather the 4 treasures of the elements. Never heard that one before. Except, you don't play this quest. You ready to hear what your story is? What grand, epic quest you are an errand boy dressed as a knight. You find a pink baby monster and are asked to return it to God's Tower by a bunny man that descended from the sky. I can't make this stuff up. With that, you set forth for God's Tower, meeting and promptly getting your ass kicked by the 2 other groups during your journey. The thing about God's Tower is that it's the point where all 3 of these stories come together, yet only one of them will be resolved. Guardians Crusade got an average rating of 5.5 out of 10. Time to see if God's Tower is up to the challenge. Keep in mind that we are talking about the turning point in the story, so there will be spoilers. I highly recommend you play this game before watching this video, or go watch my playthrough of it by clicking the card. Those are still a thing, right? After a long journey, you arrive at God's Tower to find that Calcanor and his team had arrived before you, and they are conversing with a man in a red cape. You soon find out that this man is Carmine. At this point in the game, you have heard his name mentioned in both a good and bad way, but this is the first time you're seeing him in the flesh. Calcanor demands that Carmine surrender, as they have the Holy Stones, which allows them to seal Zizan back up if he were to be summoned. This threat immediately becomes pointless, however, when Gwynladin hands Carmine all of the stones. Turns out Gwynladin was working for Carmine the whole time. This betrayal would not normally come as a shock, but at this point in the game, you consider all three to be evil, considering they attacked an innocent creature for its holy stone not too long ago. But it turns out they were all being deceived by Gwyn Laden from the start. Carmine rewards Gwyn Laden for his work by turning him into a mindless monster, who turns on Calcanor and Rommel, and two epic battles begin, where Gwyn Laden slashes them up and they die. After the battle, you leave God's Tower for a bit to get help for Calcanor and Rommel. At this point, you learn of a fifth holy beast that resides up on the tower itself, and it is in grave danger. So you rush back to God's Tower and get ready to ascend. The tower, not the... you know what I mean. Entering God's Tower proper, your ears get hit with, in my opinion, the second best music in the game. God's Tower may sound appealing, but its overall design is lacking. Apart from the bottom, middle, and top floors, the whole dungeon is nothing but a big set of stairs. Stairs that give you little to no room to move if you need to avoid an enemy. Yes, there is a place you can rest and save, and granted it is right below the boss at the halfway mark, but if you find yourself in a tight spot, you'll find it hard to escape back to that rest spot. To top everything off, there are only two kinds of regular enemies in God's Tower. The Octagugs are the easiest of the two, as they can easily be put to sleep, allowing for an easy kill, or to run away. It's the Hangries, however, that will take most of your time and resources. They can deal and take a significant amount of damage, and they can't be put to sleep as easily as an Octagug, making fighting them a long ordeal, draining your health and PP, especially if there are two of them. Luckily, the Hangries are a higher level than the Octagugs, making it easier to determine which overworld ghost is them in the event you need to escape. In God's Tower, there are three bosses, one of which is Carmine, but we'll get to him later. The other two have different names, but are essentially the same boss. Onzo is the robot just after the rest area and is the perfect test of your abilities before you climb more of the tower to face Lonzo, but they are both fairly easy if you came prepared. If Onzo gives you trouble, it would be best to stay and grind for levels close to the rest area, as Lonzo will give you the same trouble, but after you fought more Octagugs and Hangries. The only attack that can cause you any trouble is their Mind Ring attack, which can cause confusion. Yet, if you have the Ring of Calm equipped on the knight, they should pose no threat even if the baby gets confused. If you don't feel confident after fighting Lonzo, you can travel all the way back to the rest area to heal and save. Though, once you do go forward, you will meet Carmine immediately. And it's a grim sight. Upon entering, you see Carmine standing over a dragon that is bleeding out. He curses his luck that what he is searching for is not here, but when he sees the baby, he realizes that what he was searching for came to him. The baby doesn't realize the danger he is in, as the dragon laying on the floor is his mother, and he is happy to be reunited with her again. So, in one swift movement, Carmine does the unthinkable. He kills the baby. I wish I was joking, and I would love to say that this wasn't in the game, but this moment is the most powerful moment of the entire adventure. Guardians Crusade has a virtual pet mechanic to it. How you treat the baby reflects on how well he likes you. If you give him treats or send him to fetch regularly outside of combat, or keep his health up and give him orders during combat, he will like you more and be a stalwart companion in combat. If you don't, he will attack you and won't listen to a single command. You go on this amazing adventure with the baby, and you as the player feel a slight connection with him. A connection that was severed when Carmine cut open the baby to pull out the sealed Zizan. It's at this moment that you as the player are one with the knight. You feel his sadness, his anger. You want to kill Carmine. You want revenge. Well, get in line. Carmine begins to summon Zizan and telepathically orders his followers to mutate into monsters and attack those who haven't joined the cult. He is cut off, however, by Darkbeak and Ibki, who attacks him in an attempt to return Ibki to her human form. It doesn't go well. That leaves you. The baby is on death's door. Darkbeak and Impi are severely wounded and will surely die if they make another attempt on Carmine's life. Who, by the way, can continue summoning Zizan and purge the world of the non-believers. So you step forward and challenge Carmine, and the battle is incredibly challenging. If you're a child, I don't mean to downplay this whole battle. It's still impactful and you still want to succeed, but if you came prepared and equipped with the Freedom Ring on the Knight, which prevents Carmine's checkmate attack from paralyzing you, then Carmine isn't all that difficult. However, as a child, this was the most difficult fight in the game for me, and I was so proud of myself when I beat him for the first time. After beating Carmine, you take a moment to mourn the loss of the baby. The whole adventure was to return him to his mother, and now both lie on the floor bleeding. When all seem lost, the dragon cries out and uses the last of its power to revive the baby. Then the whole tower shakes, signifying the return of Zizan, and the party runs for it, using the baby's new power of flight to get away in time. God's tower is then destroyed. I have to say, even though the bosses in the tower are easy for an experienced gamer to beat, it was still a lot of fun, and I still got a rush of excitement playing through it again. Granted, the dungeon itself is a pain to go through, but I consider it the last real dungeon in the game, since the other dungeons you go to after this are just to make the game longer as you search for pieces of a holy armor. Guardians Crusade got an average rating of 5.5 out of 10. I give God's Tower an 8 out of 10. By no means is God's Tower the only reason to play Guardians Crusade, and I'm not saying that this level is better than the rest of the game. In fact, it is my belief that Guardians Crusade should also be 8 out of 10. The game's mechanics was made with kids in mind, and the game's story was made with adults in mind. Hence why both the game and the level are easy for an experienced gamer, but might be challenging for someone new to RPGs. God's Tower is that final challenge before you get ready to face the final boss, and it plays this role well. It tests how resourceful you are in surviving the climb up, and even slightly rewards you with easy boss fights if you came prepared. I will always have a place in my heart for Guardians Crusade. It's one of those games that I always go back to, and I enjoy it every time. Especially since you can make the baby rob innocent people of their belongings. Bloofy, fetch! Good boy! Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you want to see more Guardians Crusade, you can always check out my playthrough of it. It's some of my earlier content, so the sound quality is not the greatest, but it's still a blast. If you want to see more recent things from myself, I'm sadly not doing any more Let's Plays on my YouTube channel, but you can always check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/CoremanGaming. That's where I am most of the time, unless I'm doing videos like these. Either way, that's all the time I'm going to take from you. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next level.